welcome to another Mafia Romance Monday video, and today we are going back to Italy. Well, we're not literally going to Italy, but what we're going to cover today is some more Italian Mafia romances. So when I first started my channel about 2 years ago, I started out on my Mafia Romance Monday videos, and as part of that series I did a bit of a mini series where I looked at the big three, as I like to call them, which was a series of videos on Italian, Russian and Irish Mafia romances, as well as a rest of the world video. Well, since it's been about 2 years since I recorded that first video, I decided it was time to go back and have a look at the Italian Mafia romances and recommend some new ones to you. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So the first book that I have to recommend is The Maddest Obsession by Danielle, and this is book 2 in her Maid series. This is actually a Russian-Italian hybrid because the main female character in this one, Gianna, is an Italian Mafia princess. In fact, she's already been married once before and she is now a widow. And we have Christian, who is an FBI agent, and we find out that he has close links to the Russian Mafia as well. So this is kind of a Russian-Italian hybrid, but mainly focus is on the Italian Mafia family, which is why I've put it in here. Also because I absolutely love this book and wanted the opportunity to talk about this one again. So the tropes in this one are the fact, like I said, that Gianna is in fact a widow, and this is an age gap, very much a damaged hero with a hidden identity. He is absolutely obsessed, and this is a slow burn that happens over a number of years, so there's also a bit of a time jump in here as well. So like I said, Christian is an FBI agent, so he's kind of a bit like a dirty cop because he's got fingers in both pies, but the FBI knows that he is quite a morally great character and therefore send him on tasks that like make him do their dirty work for them basically. And he's kind of like well known for his interrogation techniques, shall we say that. Like I said, he also has close ties to the Mafia and occasionally does jobs or does favours for the Italian Mafia families in this book. And that's where he first kind of sees and bumps into Gianna. And one of the reasons why he works so closely with this particular Italian Mafia family, because he's quite taken with Gianna and kind of wants an opportunity to spend a bit more time with her. But like I said, when they first meet, she's actually quite a young woman and is arranged in marriage to this kind of older Mafia guy. And so when he first meets her, she is in fact married, but kind of keeps his eye on her. And eventually her husband does pass away and she becomes a widow. And now there's a window of opportunity where they may have a chance to be together. But this book is set in 2 parts, and the first part of this story, each chapter in the book is another year in their life, and we kind of drop in on them when they are in contact with each other. So the very first start of this book is a chapter from Christian's point of view, and he is in therapy, and so we start to uncover a little bit more about him. And then the first chapter from Gianna's point of view, like I said, is set in 2012, and it's the very first time she encounters Christian, and in fact is a time when he gets her out of jail because she's kind of been arrested for something. I can't even remember what she was arrested for, but she's been held in a jail cell and he's been sent by the family to kind of get her out and make sure she gets home. And this is their kind of first interaction with each other, and it really sparks this kind of like attraction. They're very clearly attracted to each other, but there's also kind of like, you know, some animosity between them. She really takes an instant dislike to him and he to her, but it's really because of how attracted they are to each other. They very much feel this magnetic pull, but they also know that they can't be together. So they kind of have this very antagonistic relationship with one another. And then some time passes and we flick to the next year when again we see another encounter between them, and so on until we get to present day, and that basically starts then part 2 of this book, when finally, like I said, Gianna is now a widow and they have more of an opportunity to be together. But still it's very taboo, it is quite forbidden, and she really is supposed to remarry another Italian person, and she's very much thinking that she will marry a older gentleman again so that she doesn't have to be married to him for very long. But of course through the years they've really formed this sort of deep connection, and Christian feels very possessive over her, very protective of her, and has become obsessed with her. And he does suffer a little bit with OCD and has this thing where it's kind of like the rule of three. He has to do things 3 times, and he likes everything to be kind of just so and in order. And Giuliana really frustrates him, and because she's like chaos personified, she really kind of like gets under his skin, kind of ruins his order, and really kind of disrupts his life and the way he thinks about things. But he's irrevocably drawn towards her, cannot stay away, and they kind of enter into this kind of affair, which, like I say, is very taboo because they really shouldn't be together. But still, he is absolutely determined to make her his. She absolutely cannot be with anyone else, otherwise, you know, he's kind of very much gives off touch her and die vibes. And it's just really interesting to see how they're going to finally admit their feelings for each other, learn to live with each other, but also how they're going to get their HEA as well. And what I love about Danielle Laurie's writing, and what I loved about the first book in this series and also this book as well, is just the intensity of these characters. The tension really oozes off the page with these stories, and you're completely hooked into these stories from the very first page, and also are desperately willing this couple to get their HEA. So I think Danielle Laurie's writing is absolutely fantastic. The perfect level of intensity, of which I absolutely love in Mafia romances, and definitely would highly recommend this one as an Italian Mafia romance. Next up then, I could not do an Italian Mafia romance recommendation without talking about at least one of the books from the Kings of Italy series by Mila Finelli, and so I've just chosen to talk about book 1, which is Mafia Mistress. So this is actually book 1 of the series, but also part 1 of a duet. So we've got Mafia Mistress and Mafia Darling as well, and this is following Fausto, who is head of his Italian family. In fact, I think this is the only book that I'm going to be recommending that is actually set in Italy itself. And our heroine in this one, who is Frankie. Fausto is kind of a more mature mafia hero, shall we say. He's still fairly young in his 40s, but he's got a grown son already. And at the start of this book, he's actually travelled to Canada, to Vancouver, to go and collect Frankie, because Frankie is a mafia princess to a Canadian-Italian mafia family, and she is going to be arranged in marriage to Fausto's son. So he is very much gone over there to do the deal with her father and to bring her back to Italy with him. Now, she really doesn't want to enter into this arranged marriage, definitely doesn't want to go home with Fausto, but she has no choice. And so it really very much feels like this sort of like captive situation when he first takes her all the way back to his family estate in Italy. Now, I absolutely love this story because it's set in Italy and they have a huge estate, like I said, a huge house that they live in, but also it's part of a vineyard. So the family also make a lot of wine. It's a very famous vineyard. They have a lot of staff. It's the height of luxury. And what I loved about this series overall was just this luxurious setting. You know, you've got your yachts and your helicopters and your fine food, your fine wine, and all of your designer clothes and everything like that. So it felt very kind of like luxurious, and also really into this fantasy world of like really high-end, super expensive and super rich kind of beautiful people in this story, which I absolutely loved from the very first page. Of course, despite all this luxury and all this wealth, Frankie is not going to be too happy that she's now trapped in Italy, and she really doesn't want to marry Fausto's son. And it turns out that the son, Giulio, doesn't want to marry her either, because we later find out in this story that he's gay and really doesn't want to marry any woman at all. So Frankie and Giulio form this very close sort of friendship, because they're kind of like in it together, if you like, in the fact that they don't want to marry each other, but they kind of resign themselves to the fact that they can still be friends and make the most of their bad situation. But the thing is, Frankie isn't there too long before Fausto starts to become really intrigued by her, very attracted to her, and he starts to become quite possessive of her as well, to the point where he realizes he doesn't want his son to marry her. He wants to keep her for himself. The thing is, Fausto has no intention of falling in love or getting married, and so what his proposal is that she becomes his mistress. And of course she really balks at this, because she is a mafia princess, she is a virgin, she cannot be anyone's mistress, certainly not Fausto's, and it would give her a really bad reputation, and, you know, not only embarrass her but her family. But Fausto is not going to take no for an answer, and he's going to wheedle his way into her life, and so their relationship goes from there. So like I said, if you particularly want a Mafia romance actually set in Italy with all the warm fuzzy feelings of an Italian setting, then I highly recommend not only this book but the whole series as well. You won't go wrong with it. Next up, I've got When She Loves by Gabrielle Sands, and this one is book 4 in the Fallen series. This is another Italian mafia family. In fact, the hero in this one, Raphael, he is Don of his Italian family, and Cleo, our heroine, is also part of another very powerful Italian mafia family, all set in New York. So the tropes in this one is that it's an age gap, arranged marriage, a sister's fiance, and also a virgin heroine, because actually Raphael was due to be arranged in marriage to Cleo's sister, but in the events of book 3 that doesn't happen, and in fact at the end of book 3 Cleo's sister gets pregnant by another character, and they end up doing a deal with Raphael to say that they'll do a swap, so that he releases her sister from her obligations to be his wife, and Cleo will step into her shoes as well. And this is actually a really big sacrifice for Cleo, because she's never ever wanted to be married. In fact, she's gone out of her way to really upset her parents and make it so that they believe that she's unsuitable for marriage, because she's very much made out that she's kind of a wild party girl. She's always sneaking out, she never does what she's told, she rebels at every turn, and they very much believe that she is no longer a virgin, and so they don't think she's suitable for marriage. And she's done this deliberately, like I said, kind of ruin her reputation so that no one will want her. Well, the truth is that this was sort of all an act, and she still is very much a virgin. And in book 3, she admits this to Raphael. So when Raphael is offered this deal, he takes it. Everyone else is very bemused and wonders why he would take a woman who is clearly not suited to be his wife, but he obviously knows the truth about her. And not only that, but he never was fully attracted to the sister. He always did prefer Cleo anyway, and so actually this is played out perfectly for him, because he's finally got the woman that he really wanted all along, and now she's going to be arranged in marriage to him. And while she's not happy about it, she's devoted to her sister. She wants to uphold her end of the bargain, and therefore isn't going to cause too many problems. However, she does decide that she's going to make Raphael's life as difficult as possible. She does refuse to sleep with him at first. She tries to spend loads of his money so that he gets angry with her, all in the hopes really that he's going to kind of send her away to the country, as it were, and so they can live separate lives. But Raphael isn't going to have any of that, and he gives as good as he gets. He's not going to be put off by any of Cleo's antics, and I really love to see how Raphael really persevered with this relationship. He was determined to make Cleo fall in love with him, and little by little she absolutely did, until this couple were absolutely fantastic together, really loyal and devoted to one another, and Raphael would do anything for her. So I really enjoyed this couple. Next up, we've got Accidental Witness by Sam Mariano, and this is book 1 in the Reilly family series. Now this is very much a saga kind of series, and you have to read these in order. And the main character throughout this series is the head of this Italian mafia family, Matteo, because he is very dark, very dastardly kind of character, but also very handsome. He likes to play mind games with people, and he always likes people to do exactly what he says, and he always likes to win. Now, this first book isn't actually his book, it's not his romance, but he definitely plays quite a major role. Now, on the surface, this book actually follows Vince and Mia, and Vince is Matteo's cousin. So at the start of this book, Mia is actually witness to a crime, because she happens to go outside of her house one night to get some fresh air, and she witnesses her neighbours being unalived, and then their house is set on fire to cover up this crime. And out of this house she sees 2 people from the mafia, as well as Vince, who she knows from school. At this point she's hiding in the bushes, but Vince sees that she's seen. Now he chooses not to say anything at the time, but the following day at school he kind of basically approaches her and warns her to keep her mouth shut. And of course she is absolutely going to do that. She had no intention of saying anything, because she knows who these men are, and she knows that it'll put her in a lot of danger. But as such, she kind of owes Vince one. As a result, she and Vince kind of start to date, and she kind of starts to fall in love with him and want to be with him. The thing is, he very much keeps their relationship on the down low. He definitely doesn't want his family finding out about her, because he knows if Matteo finds out that she has witnessed this crime, then she will be brought to the house and she'll have two options, either to be unalived or to become part of the family permanently. And of course, Vince and Mia aren't going to be careful enough, and Matteo does indeed find out about her, and he does indeed call her to the house and give her an ultimatum. And in the end, Vince makes a claim on her and basically says that she's my responsibility, that she's my girlfriend. And Matteo said, okay, so as long as she's your girlfriend, then she's safe, but I need some additional security and she needs to come and stay at the house. But the moment you choose not to be with her is the moment that I'm gonna unalive her. And so this puts an immense amount of pressure on them as their relationship, because they've only just started seeing each other. Yes, they've developed feelings for each other, but now Vince is very much forced into being with her on a permanent basis, which, like I said, does put a massive strain on their relationship as a whole. And Mia is now kind of trapped in the family home with Matteo. Now, this is not a good place to be in, because she's very much now in his sights. And Matteo, like I said at the start, really likes to play games. He likes to manipulate people. He always likes to win. He always likes to get his own way. And he's quite taken with Mia. There's something about her that he really likes, and he starts to play games with her, and in a very San Mariano fashion is going to really mess with her mind, but also her body as well. And so Mia is kind of forced into this very difficult situation, because she obviously needs to keep her boyfriend, but she also needs to keep Matteo happy. And when Vince finds out, he's obviously not going to be too happy about what's going on. Now, there is a happy finale for Vince and Mia at the end of this story, but we know Matteo has not had his final word, and more things are going to happen through this series. And I've only read the first couple of books, but I definitely want to carry on reading to find out exactly how despicable Matteo is going to get before the end of this tale, because there's definitely a lot of twists and turns and secrets to be revealed along the way as well. So next up, I've got His Tesoro by Emilia Rossi, and this is book 1 in her Empire of Royals series. This is another Italian-Russian pairing, because our hero in this one, also called Matteo, is Italian, and he is the head of his Italian family. And Sophia is our heroine in this one, and she is a Russian mafia princess, and they are basically arranged in marriage to unite their families and bring some additional power and security to both of their families. Now, Matteo never had any plans to get married. He certainly doesn't want to fall in love or really even have any children, but he does care about his family, he does care about his position, and he does want to make sure that he is in a position of power. And so when an opportunity comes along to unite his family with the Russians in order to do this particular deal, he doesn't pay too much attention to the person that he is going to marry. It doesn't matter who it is, I will take care of them, I'll make sure they're well cared for, but I have no intention of getting to know them or falling in love with them, so it really doesn't matter who they are or what they look like. And of course he's going to be marrying Sophia. Now, Sophia is a very beautiful, very kind-hearted woman, and like I say, she is a Russian mafia princess, but she's very much been mistreated by her father, mainly because she has EDS, which is short for Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a rare genetic connective tissue disorder. Essentially, this means that Sophia has kind of weak muscles, weak joints, which can make it difficult for her to move. And when she becomes fatigued, she gets a lot of pain in her body, a lot of pain in her joints, and sometimes she's not able to walk very far or needs some walking aids, either a walking stick, like a rotunda, or when she gets very tired, she needs a wheelchair. Now, because of this, her father very much sees her as a weakness. He's very ashamed of her, and he's been looking for an opportunity to kind of get rid of her for some time. So when he gets the opportunity to arrange her in marriage to Matteo, he doesn't hesitate to jump at the opportunity. And of course, Matteo is completely unaware about her disability until, that is, their wedding day, when she comes down the aisle in a wheelchair. And not only that, but her father does not give her away. And so he starts to realise at that point that things are not quite right, that her father has maybe mistreated her, and he's quite angry about this situation, because he doesn't actually care that she's got a disability, but he's upset that her father didn't tell him, and he's also upset at the realisation that her father has been mistreated her. So like I said, while he has no intention of really getting to know her or falling in love with her, he absolutely does want to make sure that she's taken care of, and that is the case. Because when he gets home with her, he makes sure that she's got everything she needs, he gets her the medical care that she needs, and he ultimately goes on to even get her the equipment that she needs, because the wheelchair she's actually got is not suitable for her, because in fact she had to steal it because her father wouldn't buy her one, and so now he makes sure that she gets one that's suitable for her needs and getting around the apartment and everything. So I think this one has got great disability representation in here as well. But what I absolutely loved about this story was their romance, because like I said, he was absolutely determined not to get to know her or fall in love with her, but when she's finally living in his house, he starts to see how sweet and kind she is. All his men fall in love with her. She's absolutely brilliant at baking and cooking, and she loves feeding people, and so all of his men really kind of like gather around in the kitchen and eat her cooked goods. And Matteo finds himself very, very much jealous of the fact that everyone is getting her attention, and he wants to make sure that he's the only one that gets her food and her attention going forward. And slowly but surely they start to develop this relationship with each other, where he continues to do some amazingly swoony and romantic things for her, and she starts to fall for him as well. Now, I've said this before and I'll say it again now, the third act breakup in this is a little bit over the top for where they are as a couple by the point in time this happens. So what happens in the third act breakup is a little bit, for me, out of character for this couple based on what we've seen up to this point. So it's a little bit over the top, a little bit dramatic, and I feel that Matteo does mistreat Sophia, and in a very unnecessary way. That said, obviously it is a third act breakup. They do get back together, and he does have an opportunity to grovel to make it up to her. And despite the fact that I didn't massively enjoy the third act breakup, it didn't detract from their romance overall, and I still really enjoyed this book and would definitely recommend. Very excited to read the next book in the series when it comes out later this year as well. Next up then, I've got Twisted Pride by Cora Reilly. This is book 3 in the Cora Chronicles. This is an Italian mafia saga, but this one is between Remo, who is head of the Las Vegas Camorra, and Serafina, who is a mafia princess from Chicago, from the outfit. This storyline has been brewing for a while, so you do need to read some of the others in this series before you get to these, but they're all Italian mafia families, so this definitely does fit in with this video as well. So anything you read from Cora Reilly generally is Italian mafia, and there are 3 main families. One is the Familia, which is based in New York, one is the outfit, which is in Chicago, and then you've got the Camorra, who operate out of Las Vegas. So this one is a romance between Remo, who, like I say, is the head of the Las Vegas Camorra. He's notoriously crazy. Everyone thinks he's a psychopath. He is extremely kind of violent and crazy. He's very unpredictable, so he's very, very kind of an emotional character, therefore very unpredictable, and everyone is kind of scared of him, and he literally is prepared to do anything, could do anything. He's fiercely loyal to his family and to his brothers in particular, and would literally walk through fire for them. Meanwhile, we've got Serafina, and like I said, she's a mafia princess, she's from the outfit, and she's been arranged in marriage to another very powerful mafia person in their family. But Remo has a plan to interrupt their wedding day. He's going to kidnap her on her way to the church, and he's going to take her back to Las Vegas with him and keep her captive, because the ultimate goal is that they're going to trade her, a bit of a hostage swap if you like, and they'll trade her for Fabiano's father, Scuderi, who they really, really want to get because he is the consigliere for the outfit. They really want to get him, they want to torture him, and they want to unalive him for things that he's done to Fabiano, who is now part of the Camorra Mafia and a very good friend to Remo, and also his enforcer as well. So this is the plan. So this book very much starts where, like I said, they kidnap Serafina and they bring her back to Las Vegas. The thing is, Remo is bitten off way more than he can chew, because yes, Serafina is a mafia princess, she's very innocent, she's still a virgin, but she's also very, very feisty, and she's very prideful. And while she is scared of Remo and what's going to happen to her under his captivity, she also knows that she cannot back down, she needs to stand up to him, she needs to hide her fear, and she remains kind of resolute in her stance that she's not going to bow down to him or break under his captivity. Now, in order for Remo to get kind of what he wants, he knows that he's going to have to poke the bear, as it were, and he's going to send videos of Serafina to the outfit and say, hey, we've got your Mafia princess, watch as we torture her. And so everyone in the outfit is absolutely outraged that he's kidnapped one of their women, because normally women are completely off limits, but Remo doesn't care, and they're horrified to see that he is preparing to torture her. The thing is, he never intends to harm Serafina. He just kind of wants to put on an act for the cameras to make them believe that that is what he's doing, so he can really rile them up and get what he wants. But again, Serafina very much doesn't do what Remo expects, and she very much surprises him, and he's left a bit bewildered and unsure what to do with her, because he really doesn't know how to handle her or what to do with her. And in fact, she has discovered one of his buttons and is not afraid to press it, and she realises that he does have a vulnerability and she is going to try and exploit it at every opportunity. So we've got a situation where Remo is struggling to really come to terms with this woman. He is really attracted to her, he feels very protective of her, and he's very confused as to why, because she's so frustrating and he literally doesn't know how to deal with her at all. Serafina, meanwhile, is starting to fall for Remo, and she hates herself for it. She feels so much guilt about what she's feeling because she's very attracted to him, but she knows that it's being very disloyal to her family. She knows she's supposed to remain pure so that when she goes back to the outfit, she can get married and carry on with this arranged marriage. But there's something about Remo that she feels really, really drawn to him, and it's very compelled to be with him. And slowly but surely they do get close enough where they start a physical relationship with each other, but like I say, they kind of both hate and love each other in equal measure, and Serafina definitely feels guilty for what's going on. Of course, she's only going to be with Remo for a couple of months, and eventually the outfit are going to agree to this trade, and Remo is left with the impossible choice of letting her go because he knows that he cannot keep her, but he has everything crossed. Like deep down inside, he really cares for her, and he's really hoping that she can love him and that she'll come back to him of her own volition. And of course, Serafina, on the other hand, is like excited to be going home, but also upset that he doesn't want to keep her, because it seems to her that he's happy to give her away. And so she goes back to her family, and of course, as a prideful woman, she isn't going to return to Remo. She's going to do her duty and stay at home with her family. But of course, they're going to have to deal massively with the fallout of what happened while she was in captivity, and ultimately she's going to have to find a way where she can make her way back to Remo. So next up, I've got Brutal Prince by Sophie Lark, and this is book 1 in her Brutal Birthright series. This one is an Italian-Irish pairing, and this time Ada is our Italian Mafia princess, and our hero Callum is our Irish Mafia hero. This is very much enemies to lovers and an arranged marriage story, because Ada and Callum really don't get along at all. Now, their families aren't particularly friends, but they're not particularly enemies either. They're kind of cohabiting in the city where they are, which I think is Chicago. But the kids hate each other, and Ada and Callum in particular don't get on. At the start of this book, Ada and her brothers decide to gate crash Callum's party at his house. They kind of gate crash, they kind of sneak in, they think they're having a lovely time. Isn't it all great? And Ada finds herself in the library. While she's in there, Callum happens to come into the library, so she hides, and while she's hiding, a series of incidents happens where she ends up setting fire to the curtains and setting fire to the library, and she then has to kind of escape and run away, and as she does so, she also steals Callum's grandfather's pocket watch. So he is absolutely livid that not only has she gatecrashed the party uninvited, but she's set fire to his library, and she's also stolen a pocket watch, which is very sentimental to him. So of course he's going to give chase, he's going to go after her, and they're kind of going to get into a fight where he also beats up her brother, and she ends up throwing the pocket watch into the ocean. And so now they're at the brink of war between these two families. Of course, their parents don't want this, so the parents get together and they decide that the only way around this, to prevent this war and to get them to start working together, is for them to be arranged in marriage. So now Ada and Callum find themselves in an arranged marriage with each other, and this begins a tit-for-tat sort of relationship where she is trying to get one up on him and he tries to get one up on her back, to the point where on their wedding day she deliberately eats strawberries in the morning, knowing that Callum is severely allergic to strawberries, so that when he's told to kiss the bride at the end of the wedding ceremony, he's going to get the strawberries into his mouth and he's going to go into an anaphylactic shock there and then at the wedding. And this, like I say, then just escalates from there. But like any good arranged marriage story, they are now in close proximity together and they hate each other as much as they're going to grow to love each other, because they're very attracted to each other. And at first they start to have hate sex, but slowly but surely over time it turns to love and they start to really want to be together. Not only that, but they make an absolutely fantastic couple, because Callum is part of a Mafia family, but he's also kind of running for office because he's trying to get himself in a political position in the city where they are. And Ada is actually very, very socially apt. She knows a lot of people, she has a lot of sway, and she's very, very intelligent. So when they go to functions together, she is able to kind of like work the room, pick up on gossip, find out information that he needs, and really helps and guides him towards the political career that he wants. So they do actually make a very, very compatible couple, will become a power couple for sure. But I love their journey. It's quite amusing the way it's told. It was a lot of fun to read, and ultimately they get their HEA, which is what we want from our Mafia romances. Finally then, I have got Sweet Prison by Neva Altaj, and this is book 10 in her Perfectly Imperfect series, and it's the latest one in this series to date. This is a Cosa Nostra romance, so basically Italian, and we are dealing in this one with an ex-con. So our hero Massimo has been in prison for quite a long time, and Sahara is actually his stepsister. There's a big age gap though, because she's about 18 years younger than him, so it's very taboo, a slow burn, and also pen pals as well. Because Massimo actually went to prison when Sahara was just a little girl, and he'd been in prison a number of years when she started to write to him in prison. It was part of a school project where she had to write to a family member. She decided to write to Massimo. So basically she started to write to him, and at first he didn't write back to her, but she would write to him because it was very therapeutic for her, and she would literally tell him all about her day. Then one day while she's writing, she actually very innocently writes about something she's observed in the house, and Massimo is very interested by what she's written. Because the thing is, Sahara's father is currently the head of the Mafia, but the person who really is running the Mafia is Massimo, and he's running it from prison. And her father is basically going to see him in prison every week. Massimo is giving him orders, he's digesting information, he's telling him what to do, not only with their enemies but with financial investments and all of that sort of thing. So while her father is, for all intents and purposes, head of this Mafia, it's really Massimo who's pulling the strings from prison. Now Massimo really believed he could trust Sahara's father, but based on some of the letters he started to receive, he started to realise that her father is definitely withholding information, if not lying outright. And so he starts to write back to Sahara, asking her for more information and really getting her to spy on not only her father but the rest of the family to figure out what's going on. Now, he doesn't manipulate her into doing this. She is well aware what he's asking her to do, and she does it willingly. And one of the reasons she's so willing to do this is because she's kind of formed a relationship with Massimo over the years. Like, she's become emotionally attached to him. She wants to help him, but also she wants to feel useful. In a world where she is a woman, there's not a lot of uses for women in this Mafia family. She really wants to feel useful because, in addition to her position in the family, she has a skin condition called vitiligo, which is where she has patches of skin which are different colours. So some parts of her skin doesn't have any pigment, so she has some very pale patches of skin, and this is all over her body. And as she's been growing up, she's very much been bullied and picked on because of the way she looks, and she's always having to kind of cover up. She doesn't feel confident to go out as she is, so she kind of covers herself up. As a result, she's always been kind of quite vulnerable. She doesn't feel like she has any power, and now suddenly writing to Massimo, she is able to do something useful. She's starting to have power. She's starting to be able to contribute in a way that's giving her some real confidence about herself and her abilities. So eventually her father passes away, and by this time she is about 18 years old, and she goes to her father's funeral. Massimo is also let out of prison at this point to go to the funeral, and this is where he gets his first glimpse of Sahara, and he's totally shocked by how beautiful she is, because all he remembers of her is a very young girl in pigtails, and that's how he's kind of been picturing her as he's been writing to her. But now he's staring this beautiful woman in the face, and he realizes not only is she a grown woman, she's also very beautiful, and he's very attracted to her, but he's starting to see her as an actual person, and he's asking her to take a lot of risks. So now he tries to pull back on writing letters to her and asking him for favours, because he really doesn't want to put her in danger, and he's starting to actually feel very protective of her and wants to keep her safe. Now Massimo himself is in a bit of a precarious position, because he's still got a few more years to go in prison, and because Zahara's father has passed away, he's now not able to fully run the Mafia as he wanted to. So he sets about a plan where Zahara's sister is going to marry the underboss. They're going to control the Mafia while he's in prison, and then when he finally comes out, he's going to take his rightful place as head of this Mafia. Of course, Zahara is very upset that he doesn't want to write to her anymore, and still very much wants to help him. And by the time that Massimo gets out of prison, she's now in her early 20s, and she is the only one that Massimo can actually trust. And so when he comes out of prison and takes his place as the head of the Mafia, she actually moves in with him and becomes his kind of like confidant, his advisor, because like I said, she is the only one now that he can really trust. Now everyone else is very skeptical, they don't understand why they're together, and also this is quite taboo, right, because she is the step sister at the end of the day, and he is a lot older than her, but still that doesn't stop them from developing feelings for each other and eventually developing a relationship together. And of course they're going to have to make some choices about how they deal with this and whether or not they choose to be together, even if it means some people will frown upon their relationship. But as always, Neva Altaj writes an absolutely fantastic Mafia story. It's filled with romance, but also some great plot and some Mafia action as well. I truly believe she gets better with every single book, and this is one of my top Mafia romances from 2024, so I would highly recommend. So there we go, that's 8 Mafia romances that feature Italian Mafia families. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me, and all that's left for me to do is say thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Now Sophia is a very kind and what did I say? I can't remember. He knows that she witnessed it, so as a result, that's not what happened, is it? So it's Vince and Mistress, but Matteo has saying it, and Vince is Matteo, and the kind of the main character, if you like, throughout this series is Matteo Morelli. It is Matteo, isn't it? Matteo Morelli. Is it Matteo? It doesn't. Yeah, Matteo.